Welcome to Arizona Sun-Times Sunday for October 23rd, 2022. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy, CEO and Editor-in-Chief of the Arizona Sun-Times. You can find us on the web at arizonasuntimes.com. That's arizonasuntimes.com. We're a fast-growing digital news site where we report the facts of local political news from a constitutional conservative worldview. Well, it's now just 2 weeks and 2 days until the all-important midterm elections, and a new poll released by OH Predictive Insights, that's the leading polling firm here in Arizona, shows Republican gubernatorial nominee Kari Lake is leading her Democrat rival, Katie Hobbs, by 3 points. Part of that lead is because Lake is receiving significantly higher support from the Hispanic community than previous statewide GOP candidates have received. Quote, why would anybody be surprised that Hispanic voters are abandoning Katie Hobbs when she couldn't even name a single thing she likes about them during a Latino outreach event? Like all Arizonans, Arizona Hispanics are sick and tired of policies promoted by Katie Hobbs and the Democrats that make our communities less safe and our groceries more expensive, end quote, Lake said in an email to the Arizona Sun-Times. Of the 674 likely Arizona voters who responded to the survey, 47% shared support for Lake, while 44% were for Hobbs. The poll's margin of error is 3.7%, with Lake's lead falling within that margin of error. Only 9% of voters remain undecided in this race, and less than 1% refused to indicate how they would vote. Due to a high volume of campaign ads coming from each candidate, 90% of respondents have at least heard of either Lake or Hobbs or both. The OHPI stated that the demographics mostly align with what they expected. Most of Lake supporters were men and those who hail from rural counties, while Hobbs saw backing from suburban women. However, Hispanic voters are evenly split, with 44% supporting each nominee, which the OHPI called a, quote, change of pace, end quote, for this group, which traditionally voted blue in the past. Yet, while independents typically leaned right in the pre-Trump era, 46% of independents supported Hobbs compared to 40% for Lake. Quote, in Arizona's political climate this past year, we have seen some of these key voter blocks have a real impact on which way the election swings, and it is clearly no different from the governor's race, end quote, said Mike Noble, OHPI Chief of Research. Quote, each candidate has their reliable voters, but it is these all-important demographics, as well as the undecideds, who will make the final call come November. Moreover, the OHPI poll was not the only recent survey that showed Lake in the lead. Fox 10 also conducted a poll which found Lake ahead by 4 points, 49% to 45%. She also led heavily in the 18 to 39 age group. Real Clear Politics averaged all polls taken recently of the Arizona gubernatorial race between September 17th and October 11th from 7 outlets and found that Lake leads Hobbs by about 1% overall. While Lake and Hobbs remain close in the polls, faith in Hobbs' chances of success seem to be dwindling among media outlets. AZ Central, an outlet Lake has openly bashed for their biased coverage against her, published an opinion piece saying momentum is shifting in Lake's favor. Hobbs has recently faced a slew of controversies beyond a Latino event where she refused to appear with Lake. Unearthed yearbook pictures revealed that Hobbs was involved in coordinating a slave day back in high school. Then there's the Arizona PBS controversy, where Channel 8, quote, broke the rules, end quote, to give Hobbs a solo interview behind the Clean Election Commission's back. The momentum in the race appears to be moving towards Lake, as even the left-wing mainstream media outlet Axios reported recently. Quote, Democrat Party strategists are watching Arizona's Kari Lake with growing alarm, end quote, Axios reported. Former Obama advisor David Axelrod had high praise for Lake's political skills. Quote, "If you get a candidate who has the performance skills of a major market local TV anchor and the philosophy and thinking of Steve Bannon, that's a potent and dangerous combination," end quote, Axelrod said. Axios noted that Lake has been embraced by other figures in the Republican establishment, end quote, and points to three key developments. Number one, Doug Ducey, Arizona's outgoing GOP governor and chair of the Republican Governors Association, although he opposed Lake in the primary, he is backing her now with great energy. Number two, Lake has also charmed Arizona's GOP donors, including members of the state's political establishment. This, according to sources who have witnessed these interactions. And number three, in private meetings and on calls with donors, Republican Governor Association officials have made it clear they are prepared to spend aggressively to get Lake across the finish line. Quote, "Voters have a clear choice, and we're confident they'll make Kari Lake their next governor," end quote, RGA spokesman Jesse Hunt told Axios. The Arizona gubernatorial race continues to draw national attention from both legacy mainstream media and conservative media outlets. We'll have more when we come back. Welcome back. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. Well, there's trouble for Democrats down in Yuma County. The former Democrat mayor of San Luis, Arizona, and a neighbor were sentenced last week for their involvement in ballot harvesting. Guillermina Fuentes was sentenced to 2 years of probation and 30 days in jail. Alma Yadira Juarez, who was caught handling the ballots with the former mayor, was sentenced to a year of probation. Michelle Swinick of the Save My Freedom movement, who is leading an effort to stop the use of electronic voting machine readers in Arizona elections due to the potential for fraud, told the Arizona Sun-Times, quote, "From what I understand, if you cheat and commit fraud upon the sacred rights of the American voting system, which makes our representative government system the most unique in all the world, you face a slap on the wrist. However, if you pray in front of a Planned Parenthood, or if you exercise your First Amendment right of free speech, or expose the truth about the fraudulent voting machines, you face years in prison, $1 billion fine, and you'll be under house arrest for the rest of your life," end quote. Prosecutors said Fuentes, quote, "appears to have been caught on video running a modern-day political machine seeking to influence the outcome of the municipal election in San Luis." The documentary 2,000 Mules from filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza and the election integrity group True the Vote spotlighted ballot harvesting in Yuma County, featuring testimony from an anonymous whistleblower there. The two operatives were indicted for ballot abuse and a Class 6 felony. In Arizona, only a family member, a household member, or caregiver for a voter may collect voted or unvoted early ballots from another person. According to prosecutors, Fuentes collected ballots from people at a table near a polling location where she was urging people to vote for a certain slate of candidates for city council. She then gave them to Juarez, who dropped them off at a ballot drop box. Fuentes admitted to investigators that she may have also filled out the ballots for voters. Note, she may have also filled out ballots for voters. Investigators said that Fuentes, who also served on the school board, used her position as a powerful figure in the heavily Mexican-American community to get people to return their ballots to her or their friends. Although the investigation only fully confirmed that 4 ballots were returned illegally, investigators believe the effort went further. Investigator William Cluth wrote in a report, there was evidence Fuentes actively canvassed San Luis neighborhoods collecting ballots, even paying for them. Juan Guerrero, a local JP, told investigators that issues like this had occurred in the town for years, and, quote, influential people like Fuentes, known as the chispas, exchanged ballots for money. Ballot harvesting was banned by the Arizona legislature in 2016, and paying for ballots has always been illegal. Ballot abuse carries a possible sentence of up to 2 years in prison and a $150,000 fine. Prosecutors had asked for a year in prison. More serious charges of conspiracy and forgery were dropped after the pair agreed to plead guilty to ballot abuse. Yuma County Superior Court Judge Roger Nelson expressed his displeasure with Fuentes' attitude. The defendant acknowledged responsibility for carrying ballots for someone else. However, she stated, quote, "I'm not a criminal," he said. "Well, you are a criminal. You committed a criminal offense. I don't think you recognize that as a criminal offense. That's the problem that I have." Judge Nelson discussed how people in the community knew the ballot harvesting scheme had been going on for years. Quote, "It's been an issue for a long time, or at least it's been alleged that it's an issue that people vote for others, take their ballots," he said. "Everybody that's involved in politics in this area knew that a new law was passed. You certainly knew it, that that law was new, even went up to the Supreme Court." Concerns about ballot harvesting this year have prompted groups like Lions of Liberty in Yavapai County to set up watch groups at unmonitored drop box locations. The Arizona legislature was unable to get legislation passed this year, clearly banning them due to a couple of Republican legislators siding with the Democrats to oppose the bills. We'll have more when we come back. Welcome back to Arizona Sun Times Sunday. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. We have an update for you on the Empowerment Scholarship Account program here in Arizona. The deadline for parents to apply for these scholarships was October 15th, and apparently 25,000 Arizona K-12 public school students have applied. Here's a reminder of how this works, as Matt Byenberg of the Goldwater Institute recently wrote. Quote, "Every Arizona child is now eligible for a roughly $7,000 annual scholarship to put towards tutoring, private school tuition, at-home curricula, and more. Any family can take the education dollars that would otherwise go to their child's public school and use that money to pay for whatever kinds of educational service would best fit their child's unique needs outside the traditional school system." You may recall it was a long and winding road for parental choice advocates to get this law passed and in effect here in Arizona. As we reported at the Arizona Sun-Times, the Empowerment Scholarship Account program, which was championed by Governor Doug Ducey, a Republican, narrowly passed both houses of the Arizona State Legislature earlier this year. After Governor Ducey signed the bill into law, a coalition of left-wing groups mounted a petition drive to place a veto referendum on the ballot in 2024 to reject that law. Had their efforts succeeded, the program would not have gone into effect. Arizona is one of 23 states that have a veto referendum option for voters to reject laws enacted by the governor and state legislature via a statewide referendum. However, opponents of the Empowerment Scholarship Account program failed to get the 118,000 valid signatures they needed to get the veto referendum on the ballot, so the program is now operational in the state. In recent interviews, Governor Ducey called the enactment of the expanded Empowerment Scholarship Account program the most important accomplishment in his tenure as governor, and parental choice advocates around the country agree. Arizona is now seen as the leading state in the country for parental choice. GOP gubernatorial nominee Kari Lake is also a big supporter of the Empowerment Scholarship Account program, but Democrat gubernatorial nominee Katie Hobbs has said if she is elected, she will work to roll back the program significantly. We'll have more news when we return. Finally, in our last story tonight here at Arizona Sun-Times Sunday, we have a development in the other big statewide race that's drawing national attention. This is the battle for the U.S. Senate between incumbent Democrat U.S. Senator Mark Kelly and GOP challenger Blake Masters. The U.S. Senate is now split 50-50 between Democrats and Republicans, but that represents a Democrat majority because, under our Constitution, the Vice President presides over the Senate and represents the tie-breaking vote. And we currently have a Democrat Vice President, Kamala Harris. Our friends at Real Clear Politics track polling very closely. They've recently introduced a new feature designed to adjust for how some polls fail to accurately grab Republican sentiment. In their latest projections for the U.S. Senate, they see two GOP pickups that will turn the Senate into a 52-48 GOP majority after the midterm elections when the Senate convenes in Washington in January 2023. The pickups would come in Nevada and Georgia. Arizona is currently projected by Real Clear Politics to be a Democrat hold, but narrowly so, with incumbent Mark Kelly holding a 3.7% lead over GOP challenger Blake Masters. With a little over 2 weeks to go until Election Day, Masters believes Kelly's weakness on addressing Arizona's water needs will help him close that narrow gap. Speaking as a guest recently at one of Kari Lake's Ask Me Anything tour events, Masters talked about Arizona's looming water crisis and how he believes he can fix it. Quote, "Let's get a U.S. Senator for Arizona who's going to fight tooth and nail. That's something I want to do. Send someone with sharp elbows who's going to fight for our water. That's the political fix," end quote, Masters said. Masters said this in response to the recent announcement from the Bureau of Reclamation that it's cutting Arizona's water supply from the Colorado River by 592,000 acre-feet in 2023. That's roughly 21% of the state's annual allotment. However, California will lose none of its supply when the cuts hit. Masters pointed to this issue as exactly why Arizona needs a fighter in the Senate, because Democrat incumbent Senator Mark Kelly was there in Washington in the Senate chamber and allegedly did nothing to stop this water cut. Masters said this made Kelly look more like the third senator from California than Arizona's second senator. Moreover, Masters criticized Kelly for seeming to take the water crisis too lightly. Masters, in this instance, appears to have found a significant weakness in Kelly's record and in his public statements on the issue of water. While speaking on CNN's State of the Union, Mark Kelly told host Jake Capper that the water crisis in Arizona is not existential and that the Inflation Reduction Act, which Kelly voted for, provides $4 billion for drought relief to fix the problem. But in addition to his criticism of his opponent, Masters brought his planned solution to the table, which includes desalination plants. Quote, "I have a tech background. Technology is the way out of this. You know, I think the future is desalination plants in the Pacific Ocean, desalination plants in the Sea of Cortez, powered by nuclear reactors and pipelines. We need to innovate our way out of it," end quote, Masters said. Furthermore, Masters stated half the money Democrats used in the Inflation Reduction Act would be enough to make a project like this a reality. Desalination may also solve the issue of which state gets a share of the Colorado River water. While speaking at the 2022 Arizona Senate debate, Masters said California should not have its straw in the Colorado River and should instead have desalination plants to use the Pacific Ocean as its water source, while Arizona reclaims its share of Colorado River water. Ultimately, Masters said he wants Arizona to be a place people continue to live in for years. Quote, "Drought is absolutely an existential crisis. We need to solve it. Otherwise, there's no future in Arizona. I want my 3 boys, they're 8, 6, and 2. I want them to choose to live in Arizona in 30 years when they're my age, but you can't do it if you go to the faucet and no water comes out, end quote, Masters said. As reported by ABC 15, Masters is not the only one in Arizona looking to desalination as a solution to the water crisis. Republican Governor Doug Ducey pointed to Israel as a real-world success story of desalination plants watering a nation. Israel uses 5 plants to provide most tap water to its 9 million residents. In July, Ducey signed SB 1740 into law, which provides $1 billion for Arizona's water future and paves the way for the state to invest in technologies like desalination for its future security. Well, that's it for our program tonight. Be sure to check out our website every day for breaking local and state political news from a constitutional conservative perspective here in Arizona. You'll find us on the web at arizonasuntimes.com. That's arizonasuntimes.com. Join us again next week, same time, same station, for another episode of Arizona Sun-Times Sunday. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. Thank you for joining us tonight.